You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for hitting that play button. This is another episode of the Dave Bullis Podcast. Really quickly, I just want to say thank you to everybody who gave me feedback on this microphone. Even just listening to the playback, it sounds 10,000 times better. Again, this is the Sennheiser E835. Fantastic microphone. I know it looks a little pricey, but to me, it's already been worth it. Just the sound quality alone is fantastic. And so again, thanks for everyone for actually tweeting at me about all that feedback. And just an article I saw that I think everyone would gain a little something from. It's an article in Forbes, and it's called Tom Cruise, The Rock, and Jennifer Lawrence will try to prove that movie stars still matter. And basically, they start to wonder, when they pay all these movie stars all this money, is there actually a return on investment anymore for them being in the movie? They used to say there was only 10 bankable actors in the world, and now it's like, I think, down to 5, where if you put them in a movie, it's going to be a guaranteed hit. I think it's pretty much a guarantee that anything The Rock is in is going to do well. Tom Cruise, maybe, and Jennifer Lawrence maybe as well. Denzel Washington is one of the bankable stars, but as movies start to get more and more of an international thing, so China market now is more important than ever, just to get this return on investment. So now it's got to be it's very an interesting time, because the whole landscape is changing. So again, that article is linked in the show notes at davebullis.com. If you're interested at all, it's right there, as well as all the other show links for this week's episode, as well as a bunch of other stuff. And again, in the pre-show notes, tons of free stuff. There's no catches or anything, including a link to a free filmmakers group I have on Facebook. If you're interested in joining it, again, we just talk about film. I always make sure that no one's posting like crowdfunding links or just posting, constant posting, which turns into spamming, and it's free of all that stuff. So if you're interested in joining it, the link's right there in the show notes. Just send a request over, and I usually approve pretty much everybody. And if you're interested, later today, I've put the finishing touches on my pitch to Podcast One. I know I've mentioned that probably 2 weeks ago, and that's going pretty well. I actually changed my idea completely, but I found something new, which I think is going to be fantastic especially for the podcast medium. After I pitch it, I'm going to see how much I can talk about it, because I don't know if they're just going to pass on it completely and I can just talk about it to everybody, or if they want me to just shut up about it completely. But either way, so some pretty cool stuff, and we'll see where we go from there. But on to this week's episode of the Dave Bullis Podcast. This guy is coming back for his second time. He returns. This guy is the founder and president of Troma Entertainment and the creator of the Toxic Avenger. I'm sure you already know who the guest is without me even saying his name. But this is episode 205 with guest Lloyd Kaufman.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
Can you hear me, Lloyd? This is Dave.
Hi, Dave. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, buddy?
Good. Thanks for having me on and helping us get the word out that Return to Nuke'em High, a.k.a. Volume 2, is opening on March 8th at the beautiful Laemmle Fine Arts Cinema and the amazing Laemmle NoHo Cinema. 7 screens.
My pleasure, Lloyd. And I also have, when this episode goes up, I actually have all the links to all of those already set and ready to go, my friend.
Wow. Thank you so much.
I know.
Go on.
I said I'm actually starting to get good at this, because the last time you were on was like probably 75 episodes ago or so. Since then, I've actually gotten better. Like for instance, Lloyd, I actually remember to turn the mic on this time.
Excellent. Well, I've gotten worse, so we're still at the same level, David. My daughter, one of my daughters, the mutant middle child, one of the mutants in Romeo and Juliet, she started a company called Kit Split, which is an Airbnb for film gear, for film equipment, film and video equipment. Kit Split, K-I-T, K as in Kaufman, IT.com. Her partner is named Christina, and guess what the last name is?
Kaufman?
Budelis.
Ah.
So Lisbeth Kaufman is my daughter, but her partner is Christina Budelis. Kitsplit.com. We use it. It's great. It's if you own a camera and you're not using it, Troma might need a camera and can rent it from you through KitSplit, get very cheap, inexpensive insurance, and get a price that's probably 20% of the exorbitant equipment houses. So kitsplit.com is Hearst Media is one of their major investors, and they're in both the East Coast and the West Coast.
And Lloyd, I'll not only link to that in the show notes, but I wanted to ask you also about independent film and, just how everything has changed even, since we last talked. Unfortunately, George Romero, he's passed away. Net neutrality has sort of passed away. So it's just a shame, But so I wanted to ask you, Lloyd,
I would like to pass away myself, quite frankly. I don't have the nerve to make an appointment with the business end of a shotgun. I'm a little scared of pain.
Lloyd, I can only imagine what the eulogies would be at your funeral. I mean, I could just imagine it would actually be a line bigger than the Apple Store or Starbucks. Just to say. No, I'm serious. I mean, you have always been a rock star of indie film, and I wanted to ask, what do you think of the current state of independent, filmmaking? I mean, you just touched upon the rental houses. Have things gotten a little better? Have they gotten a little worse?
Well, it only gets worse, at least for Troma. The problem is, as you know, the democratic revolution of movies means that everybody can make a movie. And you don't really need money anymore. You can make it on your phone, as you know. It's broadcast quality. And young people today have mastered the thousands of people making movies. And out of 1,000 movies, they're going to have a few masterpieces. The problem is you can't live off your art. You can't pay the rent or eat. And that is because the giant telephone and the media conglomerates, now AT&T owns Time Warner, that kind of stuff. They control all the sources of revenue. So, and they want to own, and the laws have changed, so they now can own all the sources of revenue. It used to be that the television networks were not allowed to own the content, but now they can own it. And they want to own it. So that is why Netflix is spending $8 billion on their own they're making their own damn movies and TV shows. And, there's only about 7 big companies that control all the media. So it gets more and more difficult for Troma and for any independent filmmaker. But the good news is that you, young people, can make movies for nothing. I can't because I don't know how to do it. I'm stuck in the celluloid age, so I can only make $500,000 movies, which that model does not work. It used to, but not anymore. So this one I'm going to do Shakespeare's Shitstorm, our version of the Tempest, of Shakespeare's Tempest. That's bound to be the last one because my wife and I have to put up the money, and I can't imagine we can keep putting up $500,000. So this will be... Return to Nuke'em High, a.k.a. Volume 2, Troma and our fans helped us on Kickstarter. We paid for it. The next one, though, Troma has no money, so my wife, the commissioner, and I will have to fund the movie.
I actually helped back Return to Nuke'em High Volume 2 on Kickstarter, Lloyd.
Yes, you did. I remember that. And thank you so much. You gave us $15,000, and I'm eternally grateful to you. It was very generous.
My pleasure. I actually found the money in in the old story, the old burlap sack behind a 7-Eleven.
Yep. That was, once you took the severed head out of it, there was all that money. And thank you for giving it to help us. But our fans really raised about $80,000 for the budget of Return to Nuke'em High, a.k.a. Volume 2. We had run out of money, and we had money coming in later, but we had a time where we either would have had to stop and lay people off in the editing department, But the fans came to the rescue and got us over the hump, and then we were able to pay for the rest of the movie. So it's about 400,000 maybe. So the fans gave us 20% of the budget. So it was pretty damn nice.
So as we talk about independent cinema, Lloyd, and we talk about Return to Nuke'em High Volume 2, so where does the impetus for you? When do you decide what movie you're going to make? And when do you starting to write? You start to write the script, and you actually start to get the money for this. Where does that impetus sort of start from?
Usually, it's born in the current events of the day. McDonald's moved next to the Troma building. There was a McDonald's that moved in next to our building in New York, in Hell's Kitchen, 9th Avenue in Manhattan, and they were horrible neighbors. They damaged our building, and they brought rats the size of raccoons, and it got me into reading Fast Food Nation and starting to think a bit about the disgrace that is called fast food and how McDonald's tortures the animals, exploits the workers, makes shit food that causes prepubescent teenagers to get obese. There's nothing good about it. And of course, the McDonald's architecture is disgusting to look at. There's nothing good about it whatsoever. So that led me to want to make a movie about that issue. And I'm a big lover of Broadway musicals, and I had always wanted to make a musical. And Gabe Friedman, who was our editor for 10 years, our supervisor, our main editor for 10 years, he suggested make it into a musical. And he pretty much wrote Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead, or we wrote it together, but he really was the driving force. And he, in fact, I think he's the one who gave me Fast Food Nation to read. And the movie, of course, Fast Food Nation, didn't appeal to anybody but the small number of yuppies who read the book, so the movie was pretty boring. Whereas Poultrygeist is aimed at the younger generations who can change the world, and in fact, McDonald's has, I think, cleaned up his act a little bit. I think they're, have raised their minimum wage a little, and I believe they're trying to emphasize salads and healthier food. At least I hope they are.
Yeah, I haven't been to McDonald's in quite a long time, so I don't really know the menu too well. Except for the only time I would go there is to maybe eat breakfast or something like that really quickly. You kind of in a rush, and you just kind of go in there to grab something, and then you eat it, and you go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I ate that."
Again, just because it's fast food doesn't mean it can't be good. I mean, it's salad. Nothing wrong with salad. Nothing wrong with protein, but to make this fatty, disgusting, and of course the animals are tortured, and that's where Poultrygeist came from. In the case of Return to Nuke'em High, aka Volume 2, that's the second half of my big event movie, Return to Nuke'em High, Volume 1 and Volume 2, and the themes there were they also concerned food and the fact that our high schools have been serving crap food, so they've contributed to the very bad health of the American teenagers. And we have a huge problem with obesity. And also the bullying is a big theme of Return to Nuke'em High. And, of course, it's a lesbianic love story. And Sugar Cookies in 1971 was a lesbian Vertigo. It was based on Hitchcock's Vertigo. So we've always been sort of rooting for the underdog, and Return to Nuke'em High Volume 1 and 2 deal with the underdog who gets bullied for being, in the LGBTQ department.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's kind of like Troma, right, Lloyd? It's the underdog always fighting for the little guy, trying not to get smushed by the corporate giants.
Trying to fight back,
yeah,
doing everything one can to change the world, make the world a better place. Every little bit to be part of the actions and passions of his or her times, as Oliver Wendell Holmes stated back in the day, the old days. Supreme Court Justice. Very right wing, though.
And because as we sort of talk about Return to Nuke'em High Volume 2, I know once you finally got everything together, and you were able to start the Kickstarter and it was successful. You were able to start shooting. What were some of the challenges of making a film? Making an independent film nowadays. So what were some of the big challenges that you came across while making the movie?
The biggest challenge we have is we make $20 million movies for $350,000 to $500,000, and Trent Hager, right? You know him. Mm-hmm. He wrote Citizen Toxie. He just has a wonderful movie out called 68 Kill. And when we were writing Citizen Toxie, we had an investor who was going to put up, I think, $2 million for Citizen Toxie, and we wrote it for that budget. And then the investor disappeared, and we had to make the movie for about $500,000. And we did not change the script. We made the script that Trent wrote, and Trent was extremely. In fact, I interviewed him in one of my books, and he devotes a fair amount of the interview with how happy he was that we didn't cut anything out of the script due to budget. We figured out ways to do everything that was in Citizen Toxie $2 million script. We figured out how to make that movie for $400,000, and he was very, very happy with that. But that is the most daunting part of it. This movie we're about to make, Shakespeare's Shitstorm, which is a version of the Tempest, it is huge. It's a huge, thousands. Well, it's like Return to Nuke'em High Volume 2. It's enormous cast, special effects, costuming, transformations, explosions, people, high falls, people on fire. I mean, it's a $20 million movie made for under $500,000. Well, probably Volume 2, I think, was $350,000 to maybe $400,000, somewhere in that zone. But we won't make, if it's as low as it is, we will lose it all because we're denied access to the revenue streams.
Well, and I know you're having a lot of premieres. You're sort of touring the film.
Yes,
and you have some of the and I saw some of the screenings on the website for the film. But also, I had Dave Kempfield, our mutual friend Dave Kempfield, on the podcast, and he was obviously he does the Troma Now podcast. So you started your own streaming service, by the way, Lloyd, which is a great idea in my opinion, because I think that's where everything is going. So everyone's going to have their own content that's theirs, and just sort of go from there. So how has Troma Now has that sort of come to what you wanted it to be? Has you ever had a good response from that?
Troma Now is great. The problem is nobody knows about it, and we have no money to advertise. We have no money, period. But we certainly don't have money to advertise. So it's all word of mouth, and it's terrific. In fact, Return to Nuke'em High Volume 1, the first half of this event film, is premiering on Troma Now at this very minute. And every month we have 2 or 3 premiere movies, world premieres. And then I curate about a dozen movies from our library, some of which are classics or sometimes there's a theme. It's a great service, and it's only $4.99 a month, and it keeps Troma alive. We're bust. We're living on the memory of fumes. We're not living on fumes. We're living on the memory of fumes. And without our fans going on Troma Now, I don't know how. And shopping at our studio store, Troma Direct. Troma Direct is our store on Troma.com. Our fans are the only reason we're still around. They support us and they subscribe to Troma Now. And anybody out there who's listening, if you want to support new, brilliant, independent filmmakers, the next generation of James Gunns and the other famous directors who have come out of the loins of Troma, Eli Roth, Trent Hager, and actors like Samuel Jackson and so on and so forth, support Troma Now and support the new filmmakers whose movies are premiering on Troma Now. It's a great system. It's only $4.99 a month. First month is free. So, but even if it isn't free, pay the $4.99. We're the last independent movie studio. We're the last ones, and we're certainly it's our 44th year, and it's never been more difficult. And we're the last ones who even pay lip service to true independent filmmaking. There are no studios left who have any longevity, and the one or two that do have longevity, it's all about money. There is no idealism or love of the art, or it's all about who's in the movie and the packaging and the huge advertising campaigns. We're the last one. Troma Entertainment is the last one, and it's all thanks to our fans. We wouldn't be here without our fans. And net neutrality helps us too. The free, open, and diverse internet, which unfortunately FCC, the Federal Communications Commission's director, Ajit Pai is his name. Pai was his last name. For shit Pai. He's decided to get rid of net neutrality. So that means the main conglomerates now, AT&T, Comcast, these aren't even, they're not even involved in the arts. They're phone companies, ISPs. But the point is, they want to build a super highway that they will be able to afford to pay for and be on, but we will not be able to afford to put our content on the super highway. So no longer will everybody be equal. There will be an elite of rich people. It'll be a CBS, NBC, ABC world. You'll have the homogenized baby food of the major conglomerates on this superhighway and their vassals. And then all the innovation and all the new people and all the brilliant James Gunns and Eli Roths of the future will be on this dirt road. The internet that will be a dirt road and take a long time to buffer, and they'll slow us down and speed themselves up. It'll be over, and there won't be any more innovation. Where did Kickstarter come from? Came from net neutrality on the internet. It's the free, open, and diverse internet, democratic medium. Troma has 500,000 people every month coming to my fan site and Troma's website and store and Twitter and Facebook and at Lloyd Kaufman on Instagram. We have literally maybe more than 500,000 every month because they like it. And we have just as much opportunity on the internet as Disney. If they like Disney, they go to Disney. If they like Troma, they go to Troma. But everybody's equal. It's a level playing field. But if there's a super highway that's fast, that you can get, that delivers fast broadcasting to the consumer, and then Troma's on the dirt road that takes a long time to buffer, nobody's gonna want to waste their time. It'll be like public access TV. People are going to want to go where the good quality broadcasting is, and that's going to be on the superhighway, and we will not be allowed to be on it, mainly because we won't be able to afford to be on it. So I imagine we'll be done if indeed the free, open, and diverse internet goes away. But never mind Troma. Troma is just a movie company. There are going to be cures for cancer. There are all these wonderful things that come out of the free, open, and diverse net neutrality that simply won't happen. The innovators are going to have to go through. If you have a toothpaste that can prevent cavities, really prevent cavities, you won't be able to go direct to your audience, right? The angry video game nerd gets millions and millions of views and makes money from the net neutrality internet. But if and maybe he will be able to afford to be on the superhighway. But the YouTube stars of the future, new, young, first-time YouTube stars who, under normal net neutrality conditions, might be able to attract millions of people because they've got something that the public likes, something new and different, and that might change the world a little bit. They won't be able. They'll have to go through one of the majors or the vassals of the majors. The toothpaste, the guy who invents toothpaste, the gal or guy who invents real cavity preventing toothpaste, will have to go through Colgate or Palm or the other one, Procter and Gamble, and they won't be permitted to make very much money. They'll get the tiny, you know how it is. right? If you own, so and there'll be a lot of innovation that won't happen because nobody will know about it, or that the gatekeepers in the cartel and the monopolies won't have the imagination. Do you think that the monopoly, the cartel, do you think that they would have understood how great Kickstarter could be? Right? Kickstarter started with nothing.
Yeah.
Right? It grew because the public wanted it. There was a need for it. But the establishment wouldn't understand that. They're not going to. They certainly don't want competition. Netflix wouldn't be here without net neutrality. Now they're part of the elite, and they're part of the. They're probably going to close the gate. They'll probably close the gate and not. Now that they're inside the treasure house, they'll probably bar us from. They probably go against net neutrality. Google, I think, is for net neutrality, and I think Facebook is too. So that's good.
Yeah, that's actually something to hear because you think they'd also be against it, but that's why I want to have you on here, Lloyd, because again you're fighting for the small guy. Like when people ask me how do you promote a podcast, and I go I have no clue, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. So, but that's why I have people on like you, Lloyd, because you're out there fighting the good fight.
Well, you have a good podcast, and you've done 75 or more chapters, episodes. And obviously, whatever you're doing, because of net neutrality and the democratic level playing field of net neutrality, you're able to attract viewers. If your podcast were not interesting to people, you'd be gone.
Well,
right?
Thank you, Lloyd. I appreciate that. By the way, your episode, this episode we're recording right now, is going to be episode 205.
Wow! Oh,
can you believe
Lord.
it?
That's great. When will it air?
It's going to air next week.
Great.
So it'll be plenty of time to for everyone to hear about the premiere and everything. But
great.
I saw a video of you, by the way, Lloyd. I know we're starting to run out of time, but I saw a video of you, and it was called it was called Lloyd Kaufman Bothers People at Yoga Hose's premiere. So I have to ask, what
was it again?
It was called Lloyd Kaufman Bothers Kevin Smith and at Yoga. It was funny. It was good, all good stuff, and. I just wanted to ask, when, doing grassroots campaigns like that, I've wanted to have Kevin on this podcast. He seems like such a good guy. Is he a good guy in person, Lloyd?
I don't know him well. I certainly admire him, and he's certainly one of our greats. But I can tell you there's a show that he has called Comic Book Men, and they have a episode coming up in the fall, I think, with it's Troma for one of their episodes where we're all there, and it's terrific. It's very funny, and how nice of Ming and Brian Johnson and Kevin Smith. They were nice to devote an episode to Troma Entertainment, Toxie and Kabuki Man, and I think Catherine Cochran and Elizabeth D'Ambrosio. We had a Troma episode. I can't talk too much about it because I've been pledged to. Confidentiality, they don't want me to be a spoiler, obviously, but It's very funny. They did a great job. It's hilarious. So keep an eye out for Comic Book Men and the Troma. So how nice is Kevin Smith to allow a Troma episode? Right?
Well, and speaking of that, Lloyd, too, you mentioned Toxie. I don't know if you could actually talk about this, but one question I wanted to really ask you is, I know there was a talk about a remake, about there was actually be a remake of the Toxic Avenger. Is there any more news about that?
Well, they've got Conrad Vernon as the director, and he is great. He loves Troma. He did Sausage Party. He did Shrek. He loves movies. He's one of the unique establishment people who actually love movies and are in it for the art, not for the scum-soaked red carpet rape culture. So he's a good guy, and you can have a conversation with him. He knows film history, and he's going to do a great job. I'm not confident that the movie ever is. I think their deal runs out in May, so far they've not put it together. Akiva Goldsman, who was the big shot on the case, it's been about 10 years, and I think have not been able to make it happen.
Because I think
they got a few more months to run, and if they, I think it's going to take a miracle.
Because at some point, John Travolta was attached to it, right?
They had John Travolta. They had what's his name? The pumping iron guy. Who's,
Arnold?
The governor. Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger?
He signed. He signed. Apparently, they announced it at the Cannes Film Festival years ago, and then he quickly unsigned for some. He unsigned because he got offered a $60 million remake. He was getting $60 million for a remake of something. One of his, maybe it was the Terminator, whatever it was shite. But unfortunately, that was it. So far, they've come up with nothing. And they have Conrad Vernon. He's great, but I don't think it's going to happen.
It's a shame.
If it happened, we would have gotten a big check. Yeah. They've got till May. So if it goes, we get a big check, and then we can make. Not only can we make Shakespeare's Shitstorm, which we are making, but we would be able to make the fifth Toxic Avenger Part 5, Grime and Punishment, which takes place in Chernobyl, and but we don't have the $800,000 to make Toxic 5, so I don't think that will get made. I think Shakespeare's Shitstorm might well be if I get through it, if we actually make it this summer. It's a very daunting task. Like all movies, Shakespeare's Shitstorm is a $20 million movie being made for $300,000 or $400,000. So it's a hell of a project. So that may well be the end of it, because I can't keep putting up my wife and my money to make movies, and where the major media and the major media not only doesn't give us any outlet for revenue, but doesn't even cover us after 50 years of making movies. I've been doing this for 50 years. And New York Times never put the word Troma has not been in the New York Times or any newspaper for 25 years. We had our 40th year a couple of years, 4 years ago. No New York media covered it, not a word. No Hollywood Reporter, no Variety. There hasn't been an independent movie studio that has existed for 44 years. There hasn't been one in history that's done what we've done and left such a mark on the cultural map, right? Look at all the directors, from James Gunn to Eli Roth to the guys who did Deadpool, to Takashi Miike, to the guy who did the Stillness of the whatever it is of Water, Del Toro, right? They all love Troma. Peter Jackson is a Troma fan. Hayao Miyazaki, the guy who did My Neighbor Totoro, was a huge fan, right? The Deadpool guys they talk about, right? You can see their influence of Troma there. Yet, the fact that we lived for 30 years, survived for 30 years, totally independently, with no, we don't make movies for Lifetime, which is a division of one of those conglomerates. We're totally on our own. No interest, because we don't have the money to advertise. So the New York Times has no interest in us, nor does the New York Post, nor do any of the media. The only reason they're interested is when there's some advertising, right? For Variety, if you take a page in Variety of advertising, they might give you, if you're independent, you might get a little article, about what you're doing at the Cannes Film Festival. Same with Hollywood Reporter. But apparently, we are not anything. We don't exist. We do not exist. Return to Nuke'em High Volume 2. Return to Nuke'em High, a.k.a. Volume 2. It doesn't exist. It doesn't matter that Lloyd Kaufman's been has 50 years of experience making movies like The Toxic Avenger or Class of Nuke'em High or Squeeze Play, Waitress, First Turn On, movies that have clearly influenced a huge segment of our mainstream talent and have brought forth Samuel Jackson. Oliver Stone got into this industry because of me. I mean, there are tons of people who wouldn't be around, or who are heavily influenced by the Troma oeuvre. Yet nobody cares. Nothing. We are we don't exist. We do not exist, and it's especially damning in New York, where we've we own a building, we got the payroll, we've made movies in New York State for 50, at least I have, for 50 years, and the fucking bastards don't even acknowledge that we exist. The critics review us, and they give us very good review. And the Museum of Modern Art is premiering Return to Nuke'em High, and the Museum of the Moving Image here premiered Return to Nuke'em High, a.k.a. Volume 2, but only the critics of the Times or the Post or whatever they pay attention. They review the movie. But again, when they review the movie, they stick, it's usually stuck in the ghetto of where the guy is making a documentary about a left-handed mattress worker, or some kid who's made his first horror film, and but it's politically correct kind of person, but that's called, they stick it in this section. It's like a ghetto, and the people reading the paper of the New York Times, they don't even read that section.
Yeah, and that's why, again, Lloyd, I wanted to have you on. I think it's so important to support Troma, because you actually released one of my favorite movies of all time, which is Cannibal the Musical, which is Trey Parker, Matt Stone. They for everyone listening, in case you don't know those names, they do South Park.
We discovered them. We discovered them and helped them make Cannibal the Musical. We distributed it. Nobody else would. Nobody. We helped them finish it, and you'll see the opening of Cannibal the Musical is very Troma-ish, and the rest of the movie is in much better taste. And it's a brilliant film, but they were able to use the VHS box to help them get credibility. So when they were pitching South Park and all that stuff, gave them a little bit of professional air. And I'm in some of their I'm in Orgasmo, and they're great guys. They're terrific. They're wonderful. They were great. But that's only another example of why. I mean, there's an avalanche of people that have come out of Troma. It's unbelievable how we are totally ignored. I still can't get over it. And then the thing that really pisses me off, David, is, and I'm grateful. James Gunn gave me 2 seconds in his wonderful Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a masterpiece. That's a beautiful film, and I have a 2-second shot. So all the recognition, I've gotten more recognition for my 2 seconds in Guardians of the Galaxy than for my 50 years of killing myself to make Poultrygeist Night of the Chicken Dead or Troma's War or Terra Firma. It takes me about 5 years to make a movie. Return to Nuke'em High and Return to Nuke'em High, a.k.a. Volume 2. It's a 2-part event film, similar to in the same way that Kill Bill is 2 volumes. I spent 7 years on that, right? The 7 years. That's the only movie I made in 7 years. So these people, right? They plenty of attention to Suicide Squad, which is plenty of attention to Batman Forever, plenty of attention to whatever scum, the Weinstein, Robert Redford, Sundance. Rape, red carpet worshipping culture of the so-called independent world, right? We don't even own the word independent anymore, right? Mm-hmm. The movies, the $12 million movie made by celebrities that get shown at Sundance that people forget after 10 minutes. That's what it's all about. Worshipping Harvey Weinstein he's up on the hill, and everybody's at Sundance, they're all in awe of him. And look at the scum. Look at the world they live in. Look at the Robert Redford, Sundance, Harvey Weinstein worshipping world, right? And yet, Troma ignores us. We're ignored. Mm-hmm. We are ignored. We who've been doing this for 44 years, right? We who have a fan base that goes out there and books our movie theaters. Our fan base are the only reason we're still here, right? Right? We have a brand, yeah. Troma. Troma's a brand. I don't think people go to see a Paramount movie because Paramount's name is on it. In fact, nowadays, that's such a filthy culture that they've got, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also was talking to some friends, Lloyd, and I apologize. I know we're running out of time, but just in closing, I know you have to run, but I was talking to some
Well,
friends.
I can give you another 10 minutes.
Oh, cool, awesome.
Yeah. Hayden said that he just came in and said it's okay.
Oh, okay, awesome. I didn't want Hayden to break my legs or anything.
He's the best. He's nice. He loves you. And thank you. He was very thankful that you're giving me some time too. And thank you.
Oh, again. Oh, Lord, any time. Because the first time I ever met you, I remember I wanted to, like, because there's so many things I wanted to say to you. And we met on the set of Crossbearer, which is the film in Philly, and I was just covered in fake blood. And you were like, when I walked up to you, I was like, "Hey, Lloyd," you're like, "Please don't get any of that blood on me," because you were wearing a new jacket, I remember, and I was like, "Oh, sorry, I forgot I was covered in blood." But
thank you for preserving my jacket.
No problem. Those are the memories I'd cherish forever, Lloyd. The first memories. Don't touch me, kid. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I love you. I love you, buddy.
At least I didn't touch you. See, that's what the mainstream, right? All these agents and facilitators, and right. It's a cesspool. Talk about drain the swamp. Oh my God, the mainstream cartel. It's a cartel. It's a monopoly, and I think it's just disgusting, and it's hundreds of millions of dollars of lobbying in Washington to get the rules against monopoly changed, and all this worshiping of conspicuous consumption. They'd rather publicize a $25,000 wedding cake in the New York Post than talk about the fact that Troma just achieved its 40th anniversary. They'd rather have a piece about Rihanna's fur coat and how one of these fashion models in $200,000 dress, skirt, wardrobe wants to have the fur coat that Rihanna has been wearing. Right, just the idea of a fur coat is obscene. But it is the value system, the entertainment value system, the whole thing is filthy, and we saw it back in the '60s. It's money. It's all the 99% of the industry, and again, I think I'm an expert. 99% and more than 99% of the people in our industry are scum of the earth. They're crooks. They're lazy. They hate movies. They're there because they think it's easy, and it's easy, and they're there for the velvet ropes that keep the real people out. They're there. They're propelled by flying. Sorry about the pun. They're propelled by flying, business class to the Cannes Film Festival, and then bragging about how I had dinner at my shoe, that's a restaurant that it's like $800 for 4 people. That's the world they live in. That's the world they live in, right?
Yeah, and
get young people to blow them, casting couches, and you hear about all that stuff, and it's true. It's disgusting. It's horrible. But the worst of it is, from the point of view of art, is that we're getting a world of homogenized baby food. Yes, politically correct, I suppose, and that's good. But stuff that's going to change the world is not getting to the public.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Real art, the genuine artists. Yes, there's a tiny amount. There's a tiny number. James Gunn, Eli Roth, John Voight. Those people, the best people in the world. A tiny, tiny number genuinely love the cinema, but the rest of them, they are going straight to hell. They are going to burn in hell.
Because one of the things that you just touched on was, there's so many people you meet in this industry who call themselves producers, They make a producer's card. They pass that at networking events. And you always say, where are these movies that you're making? Where are the scripts at that you're talking about? Where is this? Where, where the hell is all this stuff?
That's right.
And if you start to scratch that surface a little bit, Lloyd, you start to see that it's all just a facade built on bullshit. And it's all about going somewhere and being seen, and that's what they really want. They just want to be famous. They don't want to actually put a work in. They don't love movies or anything else. Or be a storyteller. It's just about being famous. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, basically, you're right. Money and power. Money and power. Money and hookers and mansions and drive around a Rolls Royce that you don't even own. Fucked up values. None of them knows who Nathaniel Hawthorne is.
Mm-hmm. Or even Takeshi Miike, like you just mentioned, or like if you mentioned somebody like that, or even Miyazaki, like they wouldn't know who those people are.
You have to dumb down your conversation with them. People, again, there's a very small number who are the greatest people in the world. Conrad Vernon, you can actually talk about movies. You don't have to dumb yourself down. Obviously, James Gunn, obviously, Trent Hager loves movies and loves. You can have a conversation without, you have to dumb yourself down for the so-called professionals. The gatekeepers.
Yeah, and that's why I'm glad to see you're still making movies, Lloyd. And Return to Nuke'em High Volume 2. You actually just announced a date at the Trocadero Theater here in Philly. And you have it going to having the premiere out in Los Angeles as well as at the Beverly Hills. And I also am going to link everybody in the show notes to all of those theaters where you can buy tickets online. You can go out and.
How is it possible? How is it possible that Romeo and Juliet, written by James Gunn, that was selected by the Museum of Modern Art to be in their Shakespeare series, they only showed 3 Romeo and Juliet movies, one of which was Romeo and Juliet. How is it possible that movie has never been on any TV or any of the Showtimes and HBOs and blah, blah, blah? How is it possible that Return to Nuke'em High, 7 years of my life, which is a very well-reviewed, New York Times liked it. The critics there certainly don't do us any favors. They wrote a great review. It's never been on any cable system. Nothing. Totally blackballed. Only because we're independent. How is that right? There's plenty of shit they put on, right? They got plenty of shit. They got some good stuff, too. HBO, Showtime, whatever. The only one that showed any of our movies in the last 20 years, the only kind of broadcast we've been on was Robert Rodriguez's channel, El Rey. And he's a filmmaker. He's an artist, and he loves Troma. And he's one of the people that really love movies.
Yeah,
But why is it? It's a cartel. It's a monopoly. It's disgusting. And thank you, David Budelis, for helping us promote Lemley's Fine Art Cinema March 8th and Lemley's NoHo 7-plex March 9th through 13th in L.A. And I'll be there with the cast, and I think we're going to see something from James Gunn and John Voight's making a video, and Trent Hager. We'll have celebrities, Troma alumni there, the cast, Catherine Cochran and other Zach Amico, and some of our stars will be there. It's going to be great. We have an art show, by the way. The Hyena Gallery in Burbank has organized an art show for a month of March with all the paintings and sculptures are all inspired by Return to Nuke'em High and Return to Nuke'em High. Return to Nuke'em High. About 20 artists have created paintings and sculpture, all inspired by the class of Nuke'em High legacy, the franchise, or whatever you want to call it. So, and then there's going to be a big party on the 9th of March at Club Cobra, which is a club almost next door to the Lemley NoHo in North Hollywood. So it's going to be quite a Troma festival. And then March 1st, you go to the Trocadero. I'll be there with Catherine and some of the stars, and we're going to have a great premiere at the Trocadero in Philadelphia for Return to Nuke'em High, a.k.a. Volume 2. And this is all thanks to our fans. Our fans go to the theaters and tell the managers they want Lloyd's movie. And so if there are any fans there, thank you. And thank you for going. If there are fans listening now, go to your local cinema. I can very often show up.
Yeah, and I'm going to link to the show notes, everybody, where you can go to the screen. You can go to your local theater and ask for Lloyd's movie there, and then you can actually do that. So I'm going to link to all that in the show notes, Lloyd. Again, I thank you for going over the time. By the way, I know you're.
Hold on 1 second, please. Oh, yeah, let's wrap it up. I see that something's happening here. Can you? I've run over, but thank you very much.
No, my pleasure, Lloyd. And again, I can't wait to have you back on again when you make Shakespeare Shitstorm. We'll have you back on for the third time. That'll be the trifecta.
Wonderful, and come and visit Tromaville one of these days.
I am going to take you up on that. I want to come to New York.
Yeah, we'll give you a tour.
And I'm going to take you to lunch. I want to come up there and I want to take you to lunch, Lloyd.
Beautiful. Let's do it anytime. That's great, and you'll get a kick out of Troma visiting. We get a lot of tourists here too. They just ring the doorbell and come visit the Troma building in beautiful Long Island City, Queens. All righty. See you soon, David. Thanks.
Take care, Lloyd.
Best wishes. Bye-bye.
You too, buddy.
Bye.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.